clinch, Miss Oilers Nation. I'm back on the Giant pregame show presented by Sherwood Ford with my favorite co-host in the world, Tyler Yaremchuk. And Tyler, I mean, so much has happened. First of all, I'm so happy to be back here with you. It's been way too long, but what an emotional roller coaster ride for Oilers fans this season. But we have made the playoffs. We're second in the Pacific. And I feel like now we can finally breathe and just maybe enjoy ourselves a little until we're now in the playoffs.
Yeah, and you really couldn't have scripted a better clinching scenario than that, right? It's a Friday night. It's a game where you're going up against the best team in the conference, and you don't just beat them. You steamroll them. The Oilers were, without a doubt, the better team in that hockey game. And Colorado, dealing with a few injuries and whatnot, but whatever. Edmonton went toe-to-toe with one of the giants in the NHL and beat them on a Friday night at home to win. I was downtown after the game. Everyone was buzzing. Oilers jerseys everywhere. It feels like playoff time right now, and that's exciting.
I just loved to see the situation. Like you said, it couldn't have been a better way to clinch playoffs. And let's highlight that game. Obviously a big 6-3 win over the Colorado Avalanche, top 2 team in the NHL right now. And the last 3 times we played them, we lost in overtime, that first game that I'm talking about, which we've coined a series of unfortunate events. The second time we lost in a shootout. And then now the third time we finally won. But I think the common denominator across those 3 games, Tyler, we really competed with the Colorado Avalanche. And if all goes well in playoffs, we may see them. And I think the breath of fresh air for us right now is at the beginning of the season, maybe even midway through the season, we're there's no way we would be able to compete with a Colorado Avalanche team, Nathan MacKinnon and company. But right now we're in a position where we are absolutely able to compete with some of the best teams in the league. And that is just such a great position for us Oilers fans to be in and to watch this Oilers team hopefully succeed.
Yeah, I think you're bang on with that. It's great to watch them go out and play these games where, a few months ago, it was a scheduled loss. And even when we were, a month ago looking at the race towards the playoffs, that was one of those games where a month ago, you're looking at it, you're going, okay, you're probably losing that one to Colorado, so it puts emphasis on beating all the bad teams, right? Because you probably don't have what it takes to go up against Colorado. And then you get to Friday, and you're sitting there kind of going no, they got a shot here. The belief in this team, I think from all corners of the fan base is incredibly high. And there's just so many reasons why, the depth scoring they're getting. The fact that they were able to go, and we just flashed up the goal scorers from last game, but they put home 6 on the Colorado Avalanche. And McDavid and Draisaitl didn't score a goal. I know they were still on the score sheet and they were involved in all that, but the 2 big guns didn't need to score, and you still got 6 on the Avs who were going with their number 1. There's a long list of positives to pull from that.
Well, let's talk about the man of the night, Evander Kane, scoring a hattie, and he also had an assist on the night, a 4-point night for him. 4th career hat trick, 20 goals, 16 assists in 39 games played right now for Kane. And Tyler, you've been an Oilers fan your entire life. You talk to me, but as far as acquisitions are concerned, in the last several years, Kane has to be probably the biggest impact player that the Oilers have had coming onto the ice for them.
Yep, 100%. They plopped him in middle of the season. There was a lot of concerns about that. And he's scoring at a pace that would be 40 plus goals in an 82 game season. That's insane. And the fact that they have it for what's $2 million against the cap is insane value as well. And like we saw in that game, he's not one of those guys who needs to be playing with McDavid or Draisaitl to succeed either. He's capable of being a driver and making plays on his own. So he's been huge for them, and his style of play as well, not afraid to mix it up. We've talked about how important that is, and I think that'll only be more apparent and more effective come playoff time. He feels like one of those guys that's built for the postseason.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Talking about Connor McDavid, that was a guy that looked so happy for Evander Kane when he got that hat trick. Connor also finished the night with 3 assists. He has 6 points in his last 2 games. And you know what? I have this great feeling about Connor McDavid and the Oilers. I feel like everyone is kind of peaking at the right time. You don't want to be peaking too quickly right for playoffs. I feel like they're going into the playoffs with such good momentum. And I really do think that Connor McDavid will have that almost that next level to lead the way in playoffs. And this team may go to this untapped version of themselves come playoff time. And I think Connor has a lot to do with that. Like we said, he didn't necessarily score, but this guy does so many other things to get the team going to a level that they need to be at to, come out of a game against the Colorado Avalanche, a top 2 team in the league, with 2 points.
Yeah, and you touched on it there. Like, we talked about the depth pieces and all that, but having Connor McDavid reach another level will be huge for this team. Since March 1st, it's been 25 games. This guy's got 41 points in that span. It's tied for the highest points per game in the NHL, and he just keeps getting better, and he just keeps seemingly heating up. And the 3-point night, we just flashed up the Art Ross race as well. He's playing with a purpose right now, but I do think it's possible there's another level come playoff time. And we've talked about how important the depth is for this team. Last year against Winnipeg, McDavid and Draisaitl didn't score, didn't do a lot offensively. Oilers didn't win because they didn't have that secondary layer. This year, I think there's even a little bit of pressure coming off McDavid and Draisaitl. They don't have to be the guys every night going and scoring, 3 of the 4 goals that the team gets. And I wonder if that's almost like freeing for them as well and could open them up to more offense, right?
We got lots going on in the chat right now. Gail says that Kane's playing with Connor, though, so this was inevitable. And I understand that argument. However, there are other players who have played with Connor who haven't done what Kane's really doing. Yeah. So you got to give Kane credit because as much as Connor, I do believe he's one of those players that he makes everyone better around him. Kane's also been doing that at an individual level as well. So a lot of love for the Oilers in the chat. I think everyone's very excited for the playoffs, and I love to see it. But let's touch on Mike Smith, the goaltending situation in Edmonton. Obviously, that's been an underlying concern for us most of the season, something that media across the league has loved to talk about and pick Edmonton apart for. As of recently, let's talk about it. Koskinen has stepped up to the plate. Mike Smith's getting into form. The last several games, our goaltending has been solid. The numbers don't lie. And I think a lot of that has been thanks to Mike Smith. So I know a lot of our pregame shows were like, do we have faith in Mike Smith yet? Do we feel like a confidence when we see him starting in between the pipes? Do we know he's going to get the job done? But again, numbers don't lie. And I don't like to assume that everything's going to be easy breezy come playoff time. But right now, I think we are, if you just kind of want to look at baby steps and progression, we are in a much better position than we were a month ago in terms of goaltending.
Oh, yeah, and it's not even close. And I like that you brought up a month ago because I pulled up the stats in the last month. Mike Smith is 9-1. That's the most wins of any goalie in the NHL in that span.
Crazy.
His save percentage is .940. That's the best save percentage of any goalie in the NHL in that span. And he's got a 2.08 goals against average. There's only 2 guys, Shesterkin and Ullmark, who've been better than that in the last month. Like, Mike Smith is giving them world-class goaltending. And, last game, even though he gives up 3 goals, save percentage is still .919. I thought he made a handful of really big stops for them when that game was still close as well. Another solid performance from Smith. And this morning, I almost said tonight. I can't believe I haven't said tonight yet on the pregame show. That's the natural thing to say. But Koskinen's going to get a chance, and he's been up and down. I still believe you want both these guys rolling to some extent come playoff time. So I like that they're going back to Mikko tonight. I would imagine he gets a couple other games down the stretch here in the rest of the week because you want to keep Smith healthy and rested, and you want to keep Mikko engaged. So Mikko's been up and down as of late. Smith has been unreal. Let's see if maybe today Mikko can find that level that maybe he had 6 to 8 weeks ago.
Absolutely. We have Will in the Facebook chat saying, I have great confidence in Koskinen right now. I hope he didn't sit too long, though. And of course, that's going to be a concern for all of us. But at some point, Mike Smith's going to need to take that rest. Koskinen's going to need to get that rep in tonight or in today in the next literally 20 minutes. And that's unfortunately the reality of goaltending. But I do really like this kind of routine that the Edmonton Oilers are in right now. And like we've said, Koskinen and Smith kind of bring each other up to another level. So hopefully Koskinen, keeps on going from the performances he's had in the past. But They're taking on the Columbus Blue Jackets. Tyler, if you're ready, we can move on to the
Let's do it.
opposition report presented by the delicious Yeg Burger. So obviously, guys, 20 minutes. We got 20 minutes to go till game time. Grab a coffee, grab some brunch, whatever it is for you. I'm probably going to put some pizza in the microwave and enjoy some pizza for breakfast. But yes, the Oilers are in Columbus today taking on the Blue Jackets, who are close to last in the Metro Division, 35-36-7 record. They are 3-5-2 in their last 10 games. And Tyler, they're on a 4-game losing streak. So we have Pat here in the Facebook chat saying it's not going to be a cakewalk today by any means. So they have to bring the heat. I agree with that. But also an opportunity to continue doing what they've been doing, especially if they've been playing the way that they've been playing.
Yeah, like there's no easy points in the NHL, and Columbus is a team that their identity is that they work hard, right? So if you take your foot off the gas in this hockey game, it's not going to go great for you because Columbus can outwork you, and they're a scrappy team. They have a little bit of offense in their lineup. You know, there's reasons to like where this team is going, but they haven't had a good year. Edmonton's clearly the better team. They just rolled over one of the best teams in the league. Now you're playing a team that hasn't really had a sniff of a playoff spot all season. So you're right. You can't take your foot off the gas. I like Dangerous Wade. Hasn't Laine always lit us up? Yeah, like they got a guy in that lineup like Patrick Laine. Oliver Bjorkstrand's one of the quietest 25-plus goal guys consistently in the league. There's talent there, so you can't take him easy at all.
Absolutely. Okay, before we get into the lines, everyone's commenting on my pizza for breakfast. Guys, I actually think pizza tastes better the second day. I throw that bad boy in the toaster oven, and it is so good. For Will, it's not Hawaiian. I absolutely do not think that pineapple should live on pizza. So no, it's just a plain cheese pizza. And on that note, we will get into our lines for the Columbus Blue Jackets. Tyler, go ahead.
Well, first off, I have a couple leftover slices of a barbecue chicken pizza in my fridge, so I will be doing the same thing as you as soon as we're done with the show.
I knew we were friends for a reason, Tyler. I knew it.
The lineup for the Columbus Blue Jackets, the top line is going to be Jack Roslovic, centering Gustav Nyquist and Jacob Voracek. Cole Sillinger on the second line with Oliver Bjorkstrand and Kent Johnson. Sean Corrali with Carson Meyer and Eric Robinson. Justin Danforth with Emil Bemstrom and Yegor Chinnikov. The D pairings for the Blue Jackets, it's Vladislav Gavrikov with Nick Blankenberg on the top pairing, Jake Bean with Andrew Peak, Dean Kukin with Gabriel Carlson. Just flashing up the lines right here. As you can see, like the depth on this team falls off pretty quickly. Their blue line's banged up. Laine, I don't even think is playing tonight. Zach Werenski's not going to be in the lineup. He's day-to-day. Alexander Tessier, Boone Jenner. Like they're missing a lot of really, really key pieces in their lineup, so it's not a great roster to begin with. They're banged up right now. That just leads you to believe that it should be a win coming tonight for the Oilers when you look at the way this Blue Jackets team lines up on paper.
Awesome stuff, Tyler. And how about for our Edmonton Oilers? Any changes aside from Koskinen?
Just checking right now as the team took to the ice for warm-up. Obviously, no Darnell Nurse for the Edmonton Oilers, so that top left D spot is going to be out. Woodcroft had a comment on it, said they expect him back, or he was asked about the playoffs, and he said, we'll see. So that makes it sound like the next week we'll probably not see Darnell Nurse on the ice for the Oilers with the hope that he's healthy and ready to go for the playoffs. I personally wonder, like, if they were still fighting for a playoff spot right now, is he in the lineup? Is Jesse Puljujarvi finding a way to get back into the lineup, right? But the lines for the Oilers, Russell's going to take his spot on the top pairing with CC, and the bottom four stay the same for the Oilers. Up front, they're rolling with pretty much the same lineup. McDavid, Kane, Yamamoto, Draisaitl, McLeod, Hyman, Nuge with Derek Ryan and Warren Fogle, and then they're going with a complete fourth line of Derek Brassard, Devin Shore, and Zach Cassian. So obviously with Nurse out, no more going with the 11-7 approach, going with the more standard 12-6. And we'll see. I like the look, actually. Yamamoto scored last game. And someone in the Twitch chat was saying that they like Yamamoto more on that McDavid line. And I think I actually agree. It was I can't even say that name. He says he's more productive and he clicks better there. And I agree. Like Yamamoto's hard work, ability to generate turnovers and stuff, I like him with McDavid.
I love it. We have a question from Chris saying, would you guys sit Nurse the rest of the regular season? I don't know about you, Tyler, but I would. I think playoffs right now is what you would need Nurse ready for. So if he needs to recover and rest, then by all means, I would probably take that risk and have him completely healthy and ready to go come playoff time.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. Like, I get that maybe there's the argument of, oh, is he going to be rusty then if he comes back? But listen, if this guy's not 100% healthy, there's no reason why you should be rushing him back into the lineup for games that are, quite frankly, I don't want to say meaningless because you still need to be building towards the playoffs. But if the Oilers, they need 2 more points and they clinch home ice in round 1. And you're obviously not catching the Flames because the Flames have clinched the division. So all you need in this next stretch of 4 games is to somehow scrape together 2 points, and you're coming in second. You've locked up home ice in the division, or home ice in round 1. So these games are in a way pointless. And I just think if anyone is slightly less than 100%, you sit them and you rest them.
I agree. And a lot of people are saying that they wouldn't because with that comes rust. But let's remember, guys, these are professional athletes who have done this their entire lives. They might have a game or maybe 2 where they're not at their max potential, but they figure it out very quickly and they're able to get back into the run of things fairly quickly. So if in terms for me, if I had to decide between rust or having someone at not 100% of their potential, I would rather take the rust because you want healthy players come playoff time. You always say when it comes to playoffs or, any type of tournament where you can win Olympics or World Cup, whatever you're talking about, you need to have healthy players. Injuries are, something that can be very scary for your team. So we need a healthy Darnell Nurses. He's our number 1 defenseman. Yeah. So I'm not concerned about rust. I'd be more concerned about the fact of resting him and letting him recover properly.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. Like the last thing you need is that guy going down for any length of time in the playoffs. The interesting one for me is going to be how they handle McDavid and Draisaitl. I think, there's probably a pretty strong case that with those back-to-backs at the end of the week against San Jose and Vancouver, you could probably sit McDavid in one and Draisaitl in the other. But as we saw last year, they played those guys right to the end, and they were kind of in a similar situation. So it probably at the end of the day is Connor and Leon's call if they're going to play or if they're going to sit. If McDavid is going for a scoring race and Draisaitl's trying to track down Austin Matthews, maybe they both say, yeah, shave down our minutes, but we're playing and we want those power play. We want the power play time. We want to try, get those individual accolades, but it'll be interesting to see if there's any other bodies that end up being rested here in the next week.
Awesome stuff. All right, Tyler, bet of the game. I have a feeling the Oilers are the favorites on the money line.
Ooh, yeah, they are big favorites on the money line, coming in at minus 261. They're even on the puck line, courtesy of our friends at PointsBet Canada. And if you like the Oilers to win in regulation, it is paying out minus 160. All the odds are pretty juiced. Like Draisaitl's minus 140 to score, McDavid's minus 112. It's been 3-4 weeks since we've seen the prices down in that range. But one guy I like to score tonight is Kyler Yamamoto. Plus 255. He found the back of the net. I think he fits with Connor McDavid very, very well. I'd be throwing a little bit on Kyler Yamamoto to score, and I also think McDavid over 1.5 points, even though it's minus 160. Like the payout is not great, but he's rolling right now. It's at the point where that's starting to feel like free money again. Not that anything, I suppose, is free money, but I like McDavid over 1.5 points, and I like Kyler Yamamoto to find the back of the net. And I know I was talking to Bearded Brad earlier today, so yes, Brad, I'll sprinkle a little bit on Yamamoto to score first as well.
A lot of questions in the chat saying if Nurse is out, do we bring up Broberg and Niemelainen to get some ice time and kind of contribute to the blue line?
Well, Broberg was banged up, so you need to make sure he's 100% healthy as well. You have Chris Russell that you can float in. Maybe if you want to give a guy like Duncan Keith a game off in the last week here, then yeah, you could bring up a Broberg or a Niemelainen and give them some NHL action so that, injuries are going to happen in the playoffs. There's going to be guys who have to miss a game or two at certain points. I don't think it's the worst idea to bring up one of Niemelainen or Broberg and just give them a quick little taste of NHL action, get them back up to speed, get them around the team a little bit, and see what they have. Because, again, there's a good chance you might have to use one or both of those guys at some point in your playoff run, right?
Absolutely. All right, Tyler, what's going on in your chat? Because we are 12 minutes away from puck drop.
Yeah, we are. Over in the Twitch chat, Bearded Brad said, Tyler, those sound like fake people names on the Columbus Blue Jackets. And yeah, they kind of do for the most part. VIP Ash said his score prediction, 4-2 Oilers. He says Connor, Yamo, and Kane scores twice. Those are his 4 goal scores. So he likes Kane to keep it going. And yes, Bearded Brad, plus 1750, Yamamoto first goal of the game. I'm with you on it, big guy.
I don't think Tyler gets enough credit for always pronouncing the opposition's last names. Like there are some teams, Tyler, that we go through and I'm like, absolute 5-star performance from Tyler because I would have much more difficulty saying some of those last names. So shout out to Tyler.
But along the lines of what Brad said, I think even if I said most of those names wrong, no one would really know who I was talking about. So maybe not even a big deal either way. I think I'm in a win-win spot.
I love it. Anything else we want to hit on before we head off and get ready?
No, I think, go out, get the 2 points,
Yeah,
clinch up home ice, and the next week is stress-free living, which is pretty crazy to think that with 3 games to go in the season, it's stress-free living for Oilers and Oilers fans. But that's where we're at. The team has been one of the best teams in the NHL over the last 6 weeks, and even with the injuries, no Puljujärvi, no Nurse, I fully expect them to keep it rolling tonight.
100%. I just copy and paste that for me too, everyone. And it's been awesome to be back on the Giant pregame show, obviously presented by Sherwood Ford. And oh my God, I'm so ready for game time that I'm tripping up on my words. I'm pumped to be here, guys. I'm pumped to watch another game. And yes, like Tyler said, hopefully the boys can close out the day with 2 points. And we'll see you on Twitter. And of course, the next game. Hey, Tyler?
Tuesday against Pittsburgh. We'll see everyone then.
All right, everyone. See ya.